Tula Pink Line Work fabrics. The book review will be for Collage by Emily Taylor. I'll be demonstrating how to use a rivet press and also showing the third and fourth projects out of my upcoming bundle. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome to Sewcial Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me this evening. I wanted to wish Renee and Melissa a happy anniversary. It was their anniversary this past Thursday. Love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning into the show tonight. I see Dot's watching from Ohio. Evelyn's also watching. Hey Evelyn. Jennifer says good evening. And hurry up, Danny, faster.
It's not me.
Lisa says Lisa's watching from North Carolina. So just a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And everything that I'm scheduled to talk to you about, I link to in the description. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the books, fabrics, notions, or projects that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. So I had a couple emails in the last few weeks about this product. I apologize, I did not write down both of the names. Somehow they got separated from my, I keep a lot of post-it notes on my desk, and so I have various post-it notes with different reminders to myself, and apparently those got separated, misplaced. But Julie definitely emailed me about this totally tubular pressing station. I was very intrigued when I saw it. However, it's not an inexpensive thing, so I thought I would get it and try it out and let you know what I thought about it on the show. So I'm gonna have Danny switch to the overhead camera and show you what came in the box. All right, so it's 4 pieces of wood came in the box, as well as these greenish blue plastic attachments and the screws. So I had to screw these in with a Phillips screwdriver, which only took a second. It was very easy. They have sort of a clasp along the top edge, all 3 of them, and the clasp is for this item right here. So this locks the pieces so it forms kind of a tabletop, and they're interchangeable because this portion is the same on all 3. So how you use it, this gets slid into, I think I put it on the wrong side. All right, so this slides into this holder over here, and there's a little notch that it kind of grabs onto because it's got sort of like a hook shape over here. So you slide that in place, and you can choose which boards you'd like to combine, and I'm going to slide this one on top, and I'll hold it sideways in a second so you can see what it looks like from a side view. So this is what it looks like. And again, you can interchange the pieces. At first I was concerned that using the thinner pieces would result in the board being not as stable, but I don't know if it's the thickness of the wood, but it feels fairly stable to me, and I like that you can change out the different size pieces, the different size boards, because this one's quite thin. So if you had to press the inside of a small pouch or a sleeve, something like that, that would help you do that. And I pulled out a pouch kind of to show pressing on a small item on this sleeve portion right here. So I have to admit, I probably should not say this because it's fairly dangerous. Lately, I've been pressing the outside of a pouch, especially if it doesn't fit on the end of my ironing board, by putting my hand inside. Like I said, that's super dangerous, especially if you're using steam, because that steam will shoot right through the fabric and the interfacing. I also pulled out, I have a tabletop ironing board, and it looks like this. Actually, Danny, can you switch out to the front camera for just 1 second? Okay, so this is what my tabletop ironing board looks like. It folds down, and there's slightly different sizes available online. When I looked online, something like this costs between $15 and $30 approximately. And so I was looking to compare these 2 items. Dan, you can switch back to the overhead. So because this one, I purchased this one for $100. Right now it's over $100 with free shipping. And I was curious how these compare. So I do really like this. I like that the parts are interchangeable compared to this one. Should I zoom out, Danny? Okay. All right, so they both have an arm which prevents a bag from going further than the arm. One thing that occurred to me before the show about this particular product, because of the size, this one's quite longer than this item is. Because of the size, if you're working with a relatively medium to large size bag, you could actually theoretically put this on the inside of the bag. A travel bag or like the airplane bag, this could actually go on the inside, and you can press the iron on the opposite side of the fabric. So I thought that was pretty clever and an interesting feature of it. Although I suppose you would have to decide if it's worth the extra expense for this item, or if a smaller pressing board that can just sit on your tabletop is good enough for you. But anyway, Dan, you can switch back to the front camera. It is called the Totally Tubular Pressing Station, and the link is in the description in case you're interested in checking out more right there. Patty says, if using your hand to iron, wear a pot holder as well. Oh, next time I am for sure going to do that. Sarah also says to wear an oven mitt. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I really should be smarter, especially taking care of myself without burning myself. Martha says there's a mitt for holding inside of an item for ironing. I'll post a picture. I'm going to write that down in case I can pick that up for a future Sewcial Sunday show. All right. I wanted to remind you about two things before we move on. The November challenge is underway. The link is in the description for that. A $100 gift certificate to SewSweetness.com is up for grabs this month, and the challenge for this month is to make any Sew Sweetness bag that you intend to give away as a gift this year, possibly for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate for the holidays. So check that link in the description for that. And the Rockstar Bag Sew Along is in the middle of week 4 for the Sew Along, and the link is in the description for that as well. And I've been seeing some lovely progress photos posted in the Facebook group. We do have plans to move the Sew Alongs for next year onto my website so that everyone can participate, but we were in the middle of the Sew Along already, so we're going to finish out the Sew Along on Facebook, and then next year all of the Sew Alongs will be hosted on the blog so that those on YouTube that don't have Facebook accounts can participate as well. All right, I wanted to share, not sewing related, but I wanted to share a soup recipe for one of Violet's new favorite soups. It's a broccoli cheese soup from Natasha's Kitchen. Danny's going to put a picture up on the screen right now, and I've made it a couple weeks in a row now. I'm going to make it sometime this week because I have some broccoli that I just got waiting for it. And Violet loves this soup, and I did not make it with the bread bowl. I just made the soup without it, but it was relatively easy to make, and thought it turned out great. So I wanted to share the recipe. It's linked in the description in case you're interested in that. And I've added a whole ton of new Tula Pink fabrics to my stash this week, so I'm going to share that with you now. It's from Tula Pink's new fabric line called Line Work. So Danny's going to switch to the overhead, and I'm going to flip through the fabric. So let me zoom the camera in. There we go. All right, so this fabric line is all black and white fabrics with pops of color. So this is a really adorable skunk print with florals on the skunk's body. There are some what I like to call blender fabrics included in the fabric line, such as the stripes. I bought a whole ton of this print because I realize a zebra is not a horse, but close enough. So I love this zebra print, and as you can see, the pops of color, there's just a little stripe and a little bit in the ear of each zebra. So there's my hands for scale. I love this print. I have not decided yet what to make with it. This peacock print is also quite beautiful. There it is, not upside down, kind of like a damask print, again with the same pops of color as in the other fabrics. Here is a panda, and as you can see, all the same colors are represented in this print also. I really like this one. It kind of reminds me, I know it's a little bit different than a comic book, but the background reminds me of a comic book at least. Lemurs in trees. And then this one is I really appreciate this one. Tula Pink turned her drawings from her sketchbook into fabric, and she has left her written notes on there, and it's on grid paper. I really like this one a lot, and it also comes in, let me leave this on the table for just 1 second. It also comes in a wide back, so I think this is 108 inches wide. Can be used for backings of quilts, or if you prefer to use it for bags, and it's a sateen, so the fabric is a little bit silkier than the quilting cotton, and the scale of the prints is a little bit different. So for example, right here, the peacock over here, as you can see, the scale, it's smaller. All right, some smaller blender type pieces left, black and white polka dots, hexagon print. This one's really cool. This is a black with gray design of the swallows, and this is a white on white. I don't know if you can see the design. Yeah, there you can probably see it if I hold it up to the light, just that, like that. I really like the white on white. In past years, I've hand dyed white on white fabrics, and it's a really fun result. So maybe I'll purchase more of this so I can hand dye some fabrics. We'll see. Anyway, this is Tula Pink's fabric line called Line Work, and most quilt shops have it in stock. I've linked to Stash Fabrics in the description in case you're interested in checking it out, and it also is available as pre-cuts and bundles in case you're interested. So, well, I forgot my question when we were talking about soup, but I wanted to know what your favorite soup is. I keep soup on heavy rotation for lunch. I freeze it in little packets, so when I make a batch of soup, none of it goes to waste, and then I have an easy lunch for the next day. Although I'm getting quite a huge hoarding of soups in the freezer, most of the freezer is full of little packets of soup now, so I have to hurry and eat up some of my soup, certainly. After the Tula Pink line work, another minor sewing, non-sewing related thing, we started playing this really fun game the other day, me, Danny, and the kids, and I'm a big fan of board games and card games, and I just wanted to share this game. It's called Suspicion. Danny's going to put a picture of the game on the screen. If you like Clue, this is slightly similar to Clue, but different enough to make it worthwhile to have a separate game, and it's a lot of fun. The first time we played, I did win, so yay for me, but it's a fun game for the whole family, and I think I did purchase it some time ago, but we only played it for the first time the other day, and we were planning, we left it set up on the dining room table so we could play it again shortly, because yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've linked to that one in the description as well. I have another question for you. What is your favorite game? Either board game, card game, what have you? Let me know. I'm looking for some new games to pick up for the holidays because we love playing games, so let me know, and I'll browse through some of those after the show and see if there's any new ones that I can pick up to add to our game board cabinet, I guess is what we call it. So the book review for this week is for a quilt-related book called Collage Quilter. It's a self-published book, and I thought it was really interesting, and I don't currently have a similar book in my sewing library. So Danny's going to switch back over to the overhead camera so that I can share with you Collage Quilter by Emily Taylor. So these are all collage quilts in the book. Let me flip to the beginning so I can give you an example. This is a collage quilt that Emily's made. Here's another one, and I like the idea of the collage quilts because to me they look like, I know a lot of quilts are considered art, but they look like artwork on a quilt to me. So the first section of the book, Emily talks about how to choose colors, different combinations of colors. Here she's talking about warm purples, cool purples, and the difference because she uses these examples a lot in the constructions of her quilts. As you can see right here, warm colors are exciting, dramatic, and intense. And I bookmarked all the pages with examples of the quilts because I wanted to share them with you. And these are really great opportunities to fussy cut things out of your quilting fabric, such as little flowers and features in the fabric. So Emily talks about choosing fabrics for your projects. Love this one. The colors are so bright and fun. Using colors and neutrals, such as the background of this particular quilt is neutrals, but they all have a little bit of color or print in them. They're just not flat white. And Emily also talks about value in the quilt. For instance, the quail quilt that I just shared. Value is really important because if there's not enough value, it's really hard to discern what the design is. So Emily discusses how to cut and put the quilts together. I got the impression from reading this book that choosing the fabrics and the values were the most important part in making the quilts turn out how you wanted them to. Okay, she does talk about supplies in case you've never made a collage quilt with applique before. I did bookmark this because of the horse, but she also discusses right here using smaller or larger bits of fabric depending on detailed areas such as the horse's hair versus the background. These are larger pieces and neutrals, but larger pieces to fill sort of a background or negative space. These are just so fun. I can recognize a lot of different fabrics just by looking at the different sections of that radish. Okay, and here's kind of a work in progress of one of the pieces. Love this one also. And then Emily walks you through 3 different designs. The actual templates are included in the pages, so you just need to either trace or print them on your home printer scanner. And then she talks you through how to assemble them. So these are the 3 pieces right here. I love this. It almost looks like the flowers popping off the page, and that's just done with combining various fabrics. Okay, so that's the 3rd project, and I wanted to share with you, I bookmarked this one at the end. This is one of her pieces called Mother and Child, and I just thought this was brilliant. I love the possibility of turning either photographs or pictures that you find off the internet into a work of art, which is a quilt. So again, the book's called Collage Quilter, and it's written by Emily Taylor. I've linked to Emily's website for the book in case you're interested in purchasing it directly from Emily. So we decided to rebroadcast one of my, actually I think it was the 2nd video tutorial that we ever made, so this was several years ago now, but we do get a lot of questions every week and via email and on the show about my Rivet Press, so we decided now would be a great opportunity to reshare the video in case you haven't seen it before. But this is a video on how to install rivets, what size dies you need, and so on. So enjoy. Okay, so these are all of the accessories that I have to go along with my Rivet Press, and I'm just using an old Aurifil container, but you can use any plastic container with a lid to keep everything contained. All right, so let me run through all of the dies that I have for my machine, and unfortunately each item, like for example rivets or grommets, requires a different die, and each size also requires its own die. So let me start off with the dies that make holes. So here's the die that I have. So this goes on the bottom and this goes on the top of my hand press, and this just makes a very tiny hole in the fabric, and I use this for if I need to make a hole for installing a twist lock for the screws that go in the twist lock. So that's just a hole punch. I have a 3mm hole punch, and this is what I use for installing rivets. So this is a rivet and that's the post on the rivet. So that's what I would use for this hole, as well as a 3mm grommet. So here's the 3mm grommet. And I like to use the 3mm grommets for making holes in the fabric for going along with a buckle, so the tongue of the buckle would go through that hole. So let me leave those both out. So that'll do both the grommet and the rivet, making the holes only. And I also have a hole punch for making a 6mm hole, and this is good for those 5mm grommets. So this makes the hole for this piece of hardware to go through. Okay, next up I have my rivet tool, and this is my most used tool, and this piece goes on the bottom and this goes on the top, and it has sort of a little indentation where the head of the rivet or the cap of the rivet will settle. So here's my rivet. As you can see, this area is curved and that will just fit right in there. And this is for 8mm rivets, and I also have some 9mm rivets, and they both actually fit in the same die. All right, finally I have my dies for my grommets. So this is a die for installing a 3mm grommet, and the grommet is the one with the hole that looks like this, and that piece will just settle in the die like that. So this die is for the 3mm grommets, and I also have a die for 5mm grommets, and it's laid out kind of the same way, just obviously bigger piece to fit the bigger grommet right there. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make holes in a strap piece and install a rivet. So I've already sewn my strap piece, and I pressed this and top stitch kind of like double fold bias tape. So my strap is ready to go, and I'm first for the rivets going to make a hole. So this is the medium size hole punch die that I showed you. This larger circle piece is going to go in the bottom of the die like this. And then the part that will be punching the hole, I'm going to screw into this top portion. And when I got my dies, it came with instructions for putting a piece of scrap fabric on this bed so that the hole punch wouldn't tear up the bottom part of the die. I'm going to leave that off for now just so you can see everything clearly. So on my strap piece, I'm going to take my fabric marker and I'm going to make a mark where I'm going to be installing the rivet. And I find that that helps because often you want the rivet to be centered, and having that mark there will help you line everything up on the machine. So I've got my mark on the fabric strap, and I'm just going to bring down the handle of the press and punch a hole. And I like to keep an awl handy, and I like using this clover awl. And basically this is just a pointy tool, and I'm going to poke out the fabric just to make sure there's a clean hole there. Okay, so now it's ready to install the rivet in the hole, and I like using double capped rivets, and double cap means it looks nice on both front and back. And one of the halves of the rivet has sort of like a hole in the middle, and the other one has a post which will go inside like that. So I'm just going to place mine right through the hole, and on the back, the other cap piece, and it'll just push into place and snap, but it's not finished just yet. I'm going to swap out my rivet die and put this one to the side for now. And again, I use this rivet die for both the 8mm and the 9mm rivets. This particular rivet is 8mm with an 8mm post, and that's the kind that I use most often. So I usually like to put the portion with the post against the bottom of the machine like that, and then kind of just nestle it in the metal of the die and then just push down. Okay, so that's what that rivet looks like when it's installed. I also have other rivets that are 9mm rivets with a 10mm post, and that just means that the cap on the rivet is slightly larger and the post is also longer. I don't use these very often. It's good for, say, if you're doubling up a strap and you're using really thick material like maybe leather or cork. These 9mm rivets with that 10mm post would be helpful for that, but normally I just use these 8mm rivets with the 8mm post. Okay, so now let me show you how to install the grommets. So I'll install both the 3mm and the 5mm grommets. So I'm going to swap out the die pieces for that. So we'll start with the 3mm grommet, which is, as I mentioned before, good for buckles for that tongue piece to go through the hole. So again, I'm going to use that same hole punch die that I used before. Okay, and again, I'm going to mark where I want that grommet to go and make that hole. Okay, so now time to swap out for the grommet die. And this is again for 3mm grommets. So here's what the die looks like. That's the bottom piece. And this is the piece that's going to go on the top. Okay, so the grommet comes with two pieces. One piece has sort of a a post with a hole through it. And the other piece is very tiny. It's just a flat piece of metal, a circle. Okay, so I like to use this one to go through the fabric first. This will go through the right side of the fabric. And on the back side, I'm just going to slip that little metal disc. Okay, so the part with the post is going to go on the bottom portion of the die, and the top portion is basically just going to bend the back side of the grommet. So this is what it looks like from the back, and this is what it looks like from the front. Okay, so one more grommet to show you, and that's the 5mm grommet. So I'm going to use my 6mm hole punch. And if you'll notice, the hole punch is slightly larger than the actual grommet. This is what it looks like. Again, this flat piece goes on the bottom. And this piece with the hole screws in the top. And again, I'm going to mark a spot to install the grommet. And if your hole punch doesn't punch the hole all the way through the fabric, just go ahead and flip to the wrong side and punch it again. Okay, so let me poke out that fabric and grab my grommet piece. And again, the portion with the posts is going to go on the bottom portion of the machine. And then the little flat circle is going to be pointed toward the top of the machine. Okay, and again, the post is going to go through the right side of the fabric, and then that little circular disc is going to go on the wrong side. Okay. Okay, so that's what that larger grommet looks like when it's installed. And it's important to mention that not every rivet press will be used with every die, so I would highly recommend wherever you purchased your rivet press from, and I'll have some links in the description to this video, but wherever you buy the press from, I would suggest buying your dies from as well, because not all dies are interchangeable with every machine. Okay, so if that tabletop press is not within reach for you economically right now, there are also handheld presses available. So I found this handheld press on Amazon for less than $40, and it includes a hole punch, pliers with different sizes of holes, and a grommet handheld press, and also one for snaps. So let me open this up and show you the pieces that are inside this package. Okay, so here's the handheld press that will make holes, and if you'll notice, it's got this little metal plate kind of similar to that tabletop press, and it'll make different sized holes. So I'll start with the hole that it was on when it came in the package. And again, I'm going to take my fabric strap and I'm just going to punch a hole in it. And this one takes a lot of strength. I find that it's not as easy as that tabletop press, especially if your hands are a little bit on the weak side like mine are. Yeah, this one's kind of hard to punch the hole through. I got it, but it was really difficult. Okay, and as you can see, it comes with the pliers for the grommets like I had before, but it looks like it's just for the one size. So the grommets are just going to settle on the plates on either side, and then the same thing for the snaps. But this handheld press is a good option, but I feel like nothing beats that tabletop press for ease of just leverage, pushing down, as opposed to kind of squeezing together with your hands. All right, Danny mentioned to me there were a lot of questions coming through about rivet presses during that video. I did want to mention, apparently I wasn't doing this years ago, but for the hole punch die, you will want to use a scrap of fabric on the lower part of the die. what the scrap of fabric does. Usually I fold it over a couple of times. Quilting cotton is fine. The purpose of having that little scrap of fabric there is it helps the die complete a cleaner cut, and it also prolongs the sharpness of the die. So anytime you're punching holes, just underneath on the very bottom, just put a little scrap of quilting cotton. The double cap rivets that I use, I most often use 8mm rivets with a 6mm post link, and I like the double cap rivets. Normally I don't have the back side of the rivet showing in the finished bag because normally the lining fabric is covering that, but it's also always nice to have that option, especially if you're attaching rivets through straps, which will be seen when the bag is finished. So it's just nice to have the double cap rivets in your stash. I purchased my Rivet Press years ago from Minkus Margot on Etsy. This shop has been closed most of the year during the pandemic. However, some other options for purchasing a Rivet Press are Cam Snaps, Gold Star. You're always welcome to ask in our Sew Sweetness Facebook group for recommendations. And I feel like one of the most important things for purchasing a Rivet Press is making sure that the seller has good customer service, because over the years I've had lots of questions about sizes of rivets and other items, as well as which dies go with them. And the shop that I purchased them from was always super helpful and quick to respond, answering my questions to make sure that I got the right item. And so customer service is key, because you may have questions down the line and you'll want to make sure you're purchasing the correct items, such as dies, for what your intent is. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I also wanted to share with you the third and fourth projects in our upcoming 4-pack video bundle that will be available next Sunday. So November 15th, it'll be available through, thank you, Danny, for the reminder. Before I get into that, we'd like to invite all of the bag makers to stand proud. Let us know in the comments that you're part of the Sew Sweetness squad. We're so glad you're here. I was really excited about tonight's show, everything that we had planned to share with you, and thank you so much for watching and tuning in. So getting back to those, the last two projects, the 4-pack video bundle will be available November 15th through the 25th, and then the bundle goes away forever. However, if you're only interested in perhaps one of the projects, they will all be sold individually, either just the PDF pattern by itself or the PDF pattern and video combo. So I shared with you the first two projects last Sunday, and now I have the remaining two projects. And let me grab, so this is the Super Bloom tote bag. Here's one of the versions that I made for the video. It features the detailed zipper pockets on the sides with the zipper pulls on the front showing. These are functioning zipper pockets, and it has a recessed zipper in the lining. I have another version that I made. This was my original, and this one I made with Rifle Paper Company fabric. And then the second project, which I was most excited about, is the sewing machine travel bag. We actually put together a really short video showing this because it's quite a large project, and I was nervous about being able to share all the features and fitting it on the screen. So Danny's going to play that video for you now. This is the sewing machine travel bag, and it's designed for sewing machines that are 17 inches long by 14 inches tall by 9 inches deep. So the finished size of the bag is 19.5 by 15 by 13. So I wanted to share with you some of the features of this bag. First off, it is made to work with a rolling luggage carrier. So I use the Samsonite brand of luggage carrier, but I noticed when looking online that there's a variety of different manufacturers that make similar luggage carriers. As long as yours has a similar handle like this, and you'll want at least 1 or 2 wheels on the bottom, it should work with this pattern. And I do have a note in the pattern instructions once we get to attaching the luggage sleeve, which is what attaches the bag to the luggage carrier. There's a note in that step of the pattern to just do a quick check to make sure that your luggage sleeve will fit on the brand of luggage carrier that you have. Okay, so that's the luggage carrier. The bag has front handles as well as a side adjustable strap. The adjustable strap is optional, so if you feel like you might not be wanting to use a side strap as well as the front handles, you can omit the side adjustable strap. So now let's go through the bag and show you some of the features. So it has a front pocket with lots of different storage for all of your sewing notions and tools. So as you can see, I've got thread in these mesh elastic pockets, and there's also pockets on the actual front pocket part of the bag for more thread if you need to take lots of thread with you. There is a long clear vinyl zippered pocket for scissors or other items, and then there's also a smaller clear vinyl pocket on the bottom. As you can see, I've got some of my friction pens in there. There's also some slip pockets in the actual flap of the bag, and all in all, tons of storage for all of your sewing items. The interesting thing about this bag is because it's designed to hold a heavy sewing machine, my sewing machine's almost 50 pounds because it's all metal, the handles are actually not stitched to the bag. The handles are hidden handles, and the handle piece is one continuous piece that threads on the inside of the bag in between the lining and exterior layers. So you won't see the handles on the inside, you'll just see the handles popping out from the outside of the exterior. But the method of attaching the handles kind of creates a sling. So the handles weave down underneath the bag in two different areas and then out, of course, on the other side. And the method of the sling portion is load bearing. So you'll be able to carry a heavy sewing machine or whatever you're putting inside the bag. There's also a false bottom at the bottom of the bag with wooden boards, and that also helps manage the weight. And it's designed so that your handles will never rip out of the fabric. The sling option is really nice, and I just think it's a great feature for toting your heavy sewing machine around. There is a Velcro strap on the handles designed to keep them together, and when you need to separate the handles, you can just release the Velcro. And let me show you what it looks like on the inside. So the exterior is assembled with foam interfacing, and the lining interfacing is Pellon Shape Flex. However, there's also additional craft foam on the inside. So I use 1/2-inch craft foam just to reinforce the bag. We want to protect our sewing machines when we're toting them out of the house, and so that 1/2-inch craft foam is really handy in making sure everything is well protected, as is the false bottom. And then in the flap of the bag, or the lid, there's a mesh pocket, a longer mesh pocket, so you can put your pattern pieces, bits of interfacing, fabric, whatever you need to, in the lid of the bag. And I also have a note in the instructions in the pattern. If you would prefer this zipper pocket to be made with clear vinyl instead of mesh, you can easily do that substitute while you're cutting out your fabric. So let me show you the sides and the back of the bag. So the side of the bag features the hardware to hold the adjustable strap, and there is also mesh elastic pockets on both sides, handy to fit a book, sewing patterns, rulers, whatever you need to. And then here's the luggage sleeve on the back. So the luggage sleeve is quite wide, and it has a bit of a lift, so it will fit easily on the luggage carrier, whether you're using the Samsonite brand or another brand of luggage carrier. So I'm really excited to have a pattern for a rolling sewing machine bag, and I hope you are too. All right, I wanted to show you what that 1/2-inch craft foam looks like because I didn't have it on hand when we recorded that little video, but here's my 1/2-inch craft foam. I found this, if you live in the United States, they have this at Joann Fabrics. It's 1/2 inches, but it is squishy. So this is not meant to be sewn over. So in the pattern instructions, and I've used the same method for other patterns in the past, such as the Lilium laptop bag, but This is not sewn through. We kind of create a little sleeve with fabric for this so that it fits in the lining but without having to sew through it at all while you're assembling the bag. What else was I going to say about this? This particular one that I purchased was 24 inches wide. It is available in other widths and packs in the batting section of the store, and I think it's mainly used for upholstering chairs and other items, but I use it for bag making certainly. Thank you so much for the lovely comments. I really appreciated it. I was really excited to share this bag, the most excited out of all four to share this one with you. And we had a few more pictures that I wanted to share on the screen, and one of them in particular I really loved. So Danny's going to put the pictures on the screen. I think, yeah, there we go. So this was the original, the very first version that I made with top stitched handles, and the finalized pattern has the handles that I described in the video, the sling version. I realized after making the first version, the top stitched handles probably wasn't the best choice. And this bag is made by Andrea Graham. She took it out camping or glamping, I guess, and she took her sewing machine with her. She said it worked great because she could fit several projects in the bag with her sewing machine, and yeah, the photo was amazing, so thank you, Andrea. All right, I'm sure you all have a lot of questions about the new projects. We'll get to your questions in just a second, so if you have a question for me, go ahead and type your question in the comments right now on either Facebook or YouTube, wherever you watch our live show, and make sure you're signed into your account before you're able to leave a comment or a question. I wanted to announce the winners of last week's giveaway. We had 2 winners for the giveaway last week, 2 winners for the upcoming 4-pack video bundle, and those winners were Jenny Vandervoet and Manu Basler, and I've already heard back from both of them, so congratulations to you both. And I will be giving away 2 more bundles at the end of tonight's show, so stay tuned for that. So Danny's going to put up some of your questions on the screen, and I'll answer as many as I can live. So Kimberly says, I placed an order on the 5th. Did I make it in time before shipping break? So if the order was placed on the 5th, it should have been shipped out. If you did not receive a tracking number, feel free to email us and we can help you out with that. And my email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's Sarah with no H. Teresa says, will you use the pressing board in the future? How is it without padding? Does it make a difference in the pressing? So good question about the padding on that pressing board. Since it is made of wood, the directions say you can either use it just with the wood, or I saw on their website that they were using the pressing board also with small bits of 1/2-inch wool mats, the same kind of wool mats that I use in my videos, except smaller versions to fit on the paddles. And I thought that was a great idea, but I thought I'd give it a try with just the wood for a little while and see how I liked it. Jay says, how did you start designing bags? Years ago when I first started my blog, which was, I started it in September 2010, I was really into Amy Butler fabrics, and in particular her book. Amy Butler has a book called Style Stitches with 12 projects in it, and I was hooked on that book. I had a friend who, Bree, who ran a monthly sew along on her blog for the book, and every month we made a project from the book, and I just love these projects. They look different than others that I had seen at the time, and I really enjoyed her instructions, and I mean, basically I wanted to be like Amy Butler, and so in the coming years I worked my hardest at my pattern writing skills, and starting off with free patterns and then graduating to a pattern shop with patterns for sale. But that's where it all started, with Amy Butler's Style Stitches book. Gretchen says, isn't it your birthday soon? Oh, thanks for remembering, Gretchen. My birthday is November 28th. Some years it falls on Thanksgiving and some years not, but it is coming up in a few weeks. Jennifer says, has Sarah ever visited a fabric warehouse, and if so, where? You know what, I don't think I have. I've certainly seen videos online and wanted to visit a few, but I have not so far gotten a chance to visit a fabric manufacturer's warehouse. Noemi says, do you have a pattern for a men's long wallet? I would love to make some as Christmas gifts. I do not have one for a long wallet, but that's a great idea, and I'm going to write a note for myself. I do have the cork bifold wallet, but it's a small bifold wallet and not a long one. All right, can you make acrylic bag bottoms for the bags that are used to carry heavy items? I'll put that on my list also. I guess I'll have to investigate what sizes would be commonly used for the acrylic bottoms. Barbara says, are dies available to install snaps with prongs? There are. I don't have any for my Rivet Press, but they are out there. I usually use for snaps either I have a cam snap die, which are plastic snaps, or I use the snap setter tool, which is a little inexpensive tool to install snap setter snaps. But yes, most brands of Rivet Presses should have that capability to purchase a separate die for snaps. Kara says, does anyone know if there are any sewing or quilting shops in Chicago? So actually in the city of Chicago, there is Oak Fabrics, and I think Second City Quilting has closed. In the suburbs, there's a whole bunch. My favorite quilt shop in the suburbs is in Arlington Heights, suburb of Chicago, and it's called Quilter's Destination. So they actually just opened their website this year, but they have a lovely large shop, and I think they are, during the pandemic, I think they are taking either by appointment or a limited number of customers in the store at one time. Stephanie says, when a rivet pulls out, like if you used rivets to attach a handle to a bag, is it because the hole is too big or the fabric was too thick for the length of the post, and do you reinforce with stitching? So as far as rivets in straps, you can either reinforce with stitching or you can just attach the rivets. I've seen some people make bags with thicker vinyl or leather, and they just inserted the rivet to save their sewing machine on the stitching through those thick layers. But if your sewing machine can handle it, you can do both for the extra reinforcement like you mentioned. A rivet pulling out, it could be maybe the layers of fabric is not proportional to the size of rivet you're using or the hole you're making. For instance, when I was demonstrating that rivet removal tool a couple weeks ago, the rivets pulled out when I was trying to use the tool, and it was because I was just trying to insert the rivet through just a piece of foam interfacing with fabric, so not a lot of layers involved there. So a good idea is always to have a little tester scrap piece with a simulation of, let me show you my little tester scrap piece. So I have this little tester scrap piece of fabric. It's fabric attached to foam, and I use it for lots of different testing. I actually used it for the testing of the openings for that sewing machine bag because I was trying to make a little sort of like welt pocket opening for the handles to slide through since they weren't stitched to the bag. But I also have a piece of handle fabric which I've pressed like I would a handle, kind of like double fold bias tape, fabric attached to interfacing, and if I need to do a little test, then I can test through attaching the rivet through my little scrap piece before moving on to the actual fabric. And you can test if you've gotten a new size of rivets or with a different post length, you can always test that on your little tester fabric before you move on to the actual bag so that you can be confident that the size that you've chosen works with the different layers that you have for your project. So I've had this, well, I have a little hole right here from a rivet that pulled through the fabric. As I mentioned previously, this is just the foam in the fabric, and it kind of popped out quite easily. So always good to test things first before you make holes in a bag that you've been working on for a few hours. Leah says, can you buy this machine and the pieces as a kit? So if you're talking about the Rivet Press, I have seen a few bundled rivet presses with dies and various dies. Of course, it will depend on the seller, but I have seen options with just the press by itself or a bundle with various dies and rivets and other products. Marilyn says, how do you get the fabric out of the punch die? That's a great question. I usually use my awl, which I believe I showed in that video. It's just got a pointy tip to it, and I use those to kind of shuck the cut pieces out of the die. If anyone has a better way though, please let me know, because I'm sure there's got to be something easier than the awl, but that's what I'm using for now at least. Paula says, do you sew this bag on your Juki 2010? I did the sewing machine bag and all of the new projects in the 4-pack video bundle. All of the bags I make, in fact, I sew on my Juki. I have a 2010 Q, and I also have a QVP 2200 mini. They're basically the same thing, but they're great bags. And if you'd like to see a video of me demonstrating my sewing machine, if you haven't seen this video before, it's on my YouTube channel. and you can just do a search on my channel, sewing machine, and that video should come up and you can check it out there. Diana says, does your Juki fit in it? Yes, my Juki does fit in the bag. In that video that we shared with me rolling the sewing machine out to the car, my Juki was actually in that bag. So when I was lifting it into the trunk, the Juki was in the bag already. Jennifer says, this is a big bag. Is this domestic sewing machine capable? It is. Some of my testers had, I guess, lightweight sewing machines, and it is accomplishable on various domestic machines. As it gets assembled, it gets larger and larger, but with some patience, I feel like it's achievable on most all domestic machines. Kimberly says, is there a release date? So the new patterns as well as the bundle will be out on November 15th, which is next Sunday, and we'll probably post it at the latest after the show next Sunday, the Sewcial Sunday show. Crystal says, do you carry those zippers on the bag? We do. Those are in the shop. If you go to my website, under the pattern, under the shop section, we do have a separate heading for zippers, and that's a zippers by the yard, and that'll be listed there. We do have some new zippers by the yard coming, hopefully at the end, by the end of the month. So stay tuned for that. We have some new zippers in different metal-like finishes, like gold and gunmetal. Dawn says, what did you use in the bottom of the sewing machine bag? It was actually 1/4 of an inch thick plywood. You can either use a single piece of plywood. I decided to use 2 separate pieces for extra stability. I didn't want the false bottom to chance over time cracking down the middle, so I used 2 separate pieces, although a single piece can be used as well. I used 2 8-inch by 10-inch pieces of the 1/4 inch plywood, and they each had rounded corners to omit the sharpness, and we'll have those 8 by 10-inch plywood boards in the shop soon. Stephanie says, I wonder if you could use Decovil light with the exterior. You probably could. I do like the combination of the soft and stable with that craft and 1/2-inch craft foam, but if you prefer a thinner bag, the Decovil light should be okay. Jay says, what is craft foam different than soft and stable? This is the craft foam. It's 1/2 inch in thickness, and we're not sewing through this while we're completing the project. I direct you to insert it in kind of a little fabric sleeve, and then the fabrics are sewn together, but this craft foam is not. Sue says, how did you secure at least the one seam you would need for the strap, or is it continuous loop? Let me pull the bag up on the table. Maybe I can have Danny switch to the overhead, and I could lay the bag on its side and I can show you how it, I can't show you the inside because the bag is done and there's really nothing. Let me zoom out. Actually, no, I'll stay at the zoom. So there you can see there's the welt pocket, and you can see the handles pulling out. So this is one continuous piece, even though it looks like it's 4 separate handle pieces, it's one continuous piece, and so it forms a sling on the bottom of the bag. And so you have both of the handle pieces underneath the bottom of the bag lifting underneath your sewing machine, so your handles won't be ripping out of your bag. And yeah, thanks to my pattern testers, I came up with that instruction for the final pattern rather than having the straps top stitched to the front and back, which is what I was originally going with for that pattern. Diana says, how much yardage for the rolling tote? So for exterior fabric, you'll need 2 yards, lining fabric 2.5 yards, and then the solid fabric, which is what I used for the straps, 2/3 of a yard. So those are the main fabrics, and then the little sleeves that I mentioned for that craft foam to go in, I list that as 1 yard of cheap or muslin fabric. So you can use anything. If you have an old bed sheet and you'd rather not purchase additional fabric for that, that fabric won't be seen on the finished bag. It's just used to create a little sleeve so that 1/2 inch craft foam can be inserted and sort of sealed in and then sewn into the finished bag. Instead of wood in the false bottom, can you use acrylic false bottoms made to sell? I think it's, don't quote me on it, but I think it might be more cost effective to go with the wood than the acrylic. Acrylic would be very sturdy also. I was trying to take into consideration cost of supplies for this particular bag because there's a lot involved with the clear vinyl, the mesh, and all that. But you certainly could use, if you prefer, acrylic on the bottom. Susan says, can you briefly show the first two patterns in the bundle again if you have them handy? Here's the bellow pouch. It comes in 3 different sizes. This is size medium, and the other 2 are behind me on the shelf. The orange bag. Danny, can you grab a bag for me by any chance? The orange one over there. Danny's gonna grab the remaining one so you can see all 4. Thank you, Danny. All right, and this is the Cavalcade travel bag. Oh, it's got a zip around in the front, and it's also got a top zip closure. Just trying to zoom in on my face.
People also want to see the Super Bloom tote.
Oh, sure. Okay. All right, here's again the Super Bloom tote in case you missed it. Here's what it looks like on the bottom. And it's got a recessed zipper, and it's also got zipper pockets on the inside. Or one zipper pocket, sorry. One zipper pocket on the inside. Jolyn says, how wide a sewing machine will the sewing machine bag hold? So I've written on the instructions, the sewing machine travel bag is for sewing machines 17 inches by 14 inches. So that would be 17 inches long by 14 inches tall or smaller. So my Juki is in the larger end of the scale, but basically anything smaller will fit in the machine. And I do have a note in the instructions to measure the machine before starting to cut out your fabrics and assemble the bag. And when measuring, take into account all areas of the machine, such as the thread stand at its lowest position. Some machines have different portions that stick out, perhaps on the back of the machine where the motor is or something like that. So when measuring, measure every single thing on the machine, not just the main body of it. Janet says, do you use a heat press, and if so, which one? I do have the Cricut Easy Press. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about. I do not have one like a steam press with a handle. We just don't have room in the studio for something like that. But I do have the Cricut Easy Press, the biggest size. It would be great for pressing interfacing for bags, but so far I've just used it for ironing vinyl onto t-shirts. Faye says, my FAF machine is 19 inches. How could I adjust the pattern? You can make some adjustments to, you'll need to make it longer. If the height and everything else works out fine, you'll need to, I guess I shouldn't list all the pieces off the top of my head, but once you've gotten the pattern, you can feel free to email me anytime, and I can suggest the particular pieces that you'll need to modify to fit a longer sewing machine. Teresa says, do you know if there's any natural alternative to the foam interfacing? Anyone here know? That's a really good question. I know cotton batting is not exactly the same structure as the foam interfacing, but if anyone has any other suggestions for a natural alternative to the foam, let us know. Type your answer in the comments, and Danny will keep an eye out for that. Pat says, does the rolling bag have a bias binding for the lining? There is no binding per se. The only binding that there is on those clear vinyl and mesh pockets. Let me see if I could hold the bag up to show you what I mean. It would probably be easier if I just open the top part. So there's no binding used to make the actual bag. There's only binding for the various pockets. So like this pocket right here, there's a binding strip here, and there's a binding strip there. Danny's calling it on the question, so I apologize if I did not get to your question live, but we'll be back again next Sunday.
You had a hot one, last one. That's
okay. Hi Sarah, could you please explain more about the tote, the third pattern, please? The
pictures inside maybe?
Sure. All right. The Super Bloom tote bag, so it's got the zippers on the sides, and the zippers actually wrap around to the back. Sort of has 2 functioning pockets on each side. So this is a slip pocket, and this zipper is an actual zipper pocket here too, so you can place something there. It's got a recessed zipper on the top, and then there's one zipper pocket in the lining, which is that one right there. All right. Thank you very much, Danny, for that good catch. And all right, let's get over to the giveaway for tonight. So again, I will be choosing 2 winners for tonight's giveaway. I'll be drawing the winners randomly at the end of the day this Saturday and announcing the winners on next Sunday's show. So 2 winners here. The prize is the upcoming 4-pack video bundle. And all you need to do is answer my question in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching this show. My question is, what is your favorite place to visit? Anywhere in the world. It could be either a vacation spot or a particular place or venue. So let me know what your favorite place to visit is. Mine is Disney. We were just talking about it the other day. One day we'll be able to go back. But thank you so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. I hope you have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.